America's on fire, California and Texas have teamed up against all the other United States, and Alex Garland is to blame. What the heck was A24's Civil War? Hey guys, welcome back to Cut the Crap. My name is Ethan Wood, and today we are breaking down A24's Civil War because it has been a hot point of debate online, even though it came out about a year ago. So today we're going to talk about the message of the film and figure out whether the message hurt or helped the film. And I think that this film is actually super timely because it is the remedy that we need in this time of political uncertainty. So if you are interested in hearing about how this is probably one of the most prophetic movies of 2025, let's cut the crap and break it down. Okay, so quick rundown of the film. Civil War follows a group of journalists racing to DC during, well, a civil war. But the movie never tells us why it's happening. In fact, we don't know the political context. These are questions that Alex Garland has left intentionally ambiguous because he wanted to. He is the director after all.
Do you know the answer to those questions and then just choose not to tell us? Or is it just something that you never decide for yourself?
I know I've got my own private answers to those questions, and I think that the answers to those questions do actually probably exist within the film in various places, in various ways. Sometimes by implication or inference, and sometimes actually just stated. But it's probably to do with the way film usually works as opposed to how it's being done here, where film usually, it takes great pains to be as clear as possible. So the intentions of the filmmaker and a question is clearly stated and an answer is clearly provided, and that's sort of what we're used to. I was trying to do something slightly different here.
Alex Garland wanted to leave this open-ended. That was a completely intentional thing that he did because he wanted to make a movie that wasn't political. He just wanted to shed light on how political polarization is dangerous. And I think that that's the real issue, right? Because we're living in a country, okay, so I'm American, we're living in a country where there is so much political polarization right now. It feels like we're on the brink of civil war. In fact, I think most people in the world would say that America's probably on the brink of civil war, and I think you would probably agree with that too. But it's hard for him to say that, hey, I was trying to not make this movie about politics when obviously we're literally living in it. It's hard not to make it political. So I understand his sentiment because you want to play it safe. But you can't if you make a movie like he did, and I actually respect him a ton for that. So by refusing to take a side, Alex Garland in Civil War is actually making an entirely different point about politics, and that all sides are bad, and that politics isn't the point. Because when you try to say that politics isn't the point, you're actually making a point about politics. So sorry, Garland, but in the end, it's going to be political because nothing can be neutral. You can fight me on that, but in the end, nothing we do is in fact neutral. And I think that blurring the lines between good and bad is actually super unhelpful for the audience because we don't know what to think or do or feel about these characters. So compare that to something like The Hunger Games, because you know who the bad guys are in this and you feel the injustice, but Civil War doesn't give you that clarity. And sometimes keeping things intentionally vague is a creative choice, but in the end, some would claim otherwise.
First problem is that this movie is just way too shallow for the subject matter at hand. Like, it's just way too safe. And I'm fine with this movie being kind of apolitical, not taking a side with the right or left, but you still have to make an interesting film in itself and have a dialogue going on within it.
So regardless of whether you think this movie is shallow or not, I will leave that up to you. But critics are saying right now that the ambiguity of war is realistic. And I do agree with that. I do think that most things in life are gray. But when it comes to movies, it seems like he's not choosing a side out of some other motive, like fear. The fear of being judged, the fear of being ridiculed, the fear of choosing the wrong side maybe. And in trying to say nothing specific, he actually said everything at once. Now, I will give him credit for one thing. I do think that he nailed how America is doing right now. He completely nailed that on the head because it captures this weird vibe that like everyone's angry, that no one trusts each other, and that one news story could just push everyone over the brink of collapse and our country is done. I do understand that. And I think that Garland did a great job of doing this because we're kind of living it right now. Like, what we are living each day is what is happening on film. So it's a little scary to watch it all play out because we really hope that that won't happen. And I heard some people joking about this online, but we know it's not going to happen because Texas and California are definitely not going to team up anytime soon. So that was definitely not realistic, and I found that really, really funny. But he did get what he wanted in the end, Alex Garland. He wanted us to talk about this. He wanted this to be a point of discussion. And if we want to phrase it that way, he won. Definitely in the end.
Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
Honestly, I'm not one to shy away from anything controversial. That's why I run this YouTube channel. So I do commend him for that, and I agree with a lot of what he did. I think it was super timely. However, I really do like knowing where people stand on their political takes, and I wish that he had chosen a side. Now, we've broken down the whole message. That is completely good. I think we understand what his message was trying to get at, what he was wanting to do with his film. However, I don't know if he got it right though. I don't know if his message quite landed, and I think it might have screwed up his movie big time. So let's talk about that. So there are two sides to this equation that we need to talk about. First, Garland's left it intentionally ambiguous, so an audience can come to any conclusion that they want, which can be dangerous, but I think most people have come to the right conclusion, saying that this isn't that deep, we're not going to take this too seriously, but it was really cool to see where America could end up if we ended up going down our current trajectory, so I think that was fair. But second, and most importantly, I think he made a really deep point about politics unintentionally. Come with me on this rabbit hole real fast. So this movie is taking no side, neither Democrat nor Republican. Instead, it is a movie about journalists, and journalists who are trying to remain ambiguous and without choosing a side. But that's not how life actually works, right? I already said most things that we do in life are not going to be neutral. They're going to be either one side or another or a third or whatever. So someone has to choose a side, and if it's not the right or the left, then you're choosing your own side, right? Like in the case of the journalist, aka you're not choosing the government and you're not choosing politics. So I think in the end, this movie recognized the failings of modern day politics, and that politics and government are not your savior. That is something I want to break down today because that is a super good point, and I think we all need to hear it, especially in this time when politics is just failing our country so much right now. But he is saying that this is what happens when we stop listening to one another, when we let our political sides separate us and make us hate one another, when politics becomes the center of our lives, right? Politics is not our identity. Whether you are a Republican or Democrat, that is not your identity. Your identity is found elsewhere, whether you like that or not. And when media becomes passive, and when we rely too much on government, we are going to mess up. Our country is going to go down the drain if that is all that we have worth living. Does the chaotic message of civil war land? Maybe, maybe not, and that's completely fine. But at the end of the day, chaos has a way of revealing what is broken underneath. And I think that's what that movie does super well. So it's not perfect, but it's honest. And it sparks a real conversation, one that I hope you guys walk away from feeling encouraged by, right? Like this movie is not supposed to be the most insightful thing. I don't think it's prophetic in any way. I think it just went down the rabbit hole of what happens when people care too much about politics, too much about their government, too much about their state. And that is what happens, guys. Our life is not about politics. Life is about the people, and life is about God. That is the main point of life, is to serve and glorify God. And I hope that that's the point that you guys can walk away from. You guys can disagree with me on that, but that is where the comment section is in. So if you guys have questions or comments, please drop them down below. I'd love to hear them. But yeah, that is the whole point of this movie. And I hope that you guys can walk away hopeful and encouraged, knowing that there is hope in this life. And if it's not in government and politics, then it can be found elsewhere. Well, that was fun, guys. If you've seen Civil War, I'd love if you drop a comment down below and tell me what you thought about it. I make movies like this. I'm so close. I break down movies like this every week. So if you believe that Hollywood can be redeemed, that there is hope in the movie world, And if you are new here, please hit that subscribe button and hit that like button as well. I really do appreciate that. I'm very encouraged by that. Stay thoughtful, and I will see you in the next one.